Welcome back, everybody. This is Recovery People's Recovery Supports and Education for the state of Texas, and the overarching topic is supporting students in recovery from substance use disorder. This is a 10-unit series on recovery high schools, alternative peer groups, and collegiate recovery. Just a quick reminder, there is a manual that goes with these online trainings, so hopefully you are referring to the various sections that relate to the topics. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email Recovery People's Executive Director, Jason Howell. So in this unit today, after we introduce who Recovery People is, which is formerly known as Soberhood, they are leading the effort to try to bring recovery supports throughout the state of Texas, especially to communities that don't really have much going on in the way of recovery support. So everything leads back to Recovery People. So if you have any questions or want to get in contact with me, I am the trainer for this series. My name is Kristen Harper, and welcome any additional follow-up. So today in Unit 4, we're going to talk about the data collection from our previous unit having to do with the community asset mapping. Not only how are you collecting that data, but then also how are you going to analyze it, organize it, analyze it, and what are you going to do with it? So today, participants will understand how to map the assets and the gaps in their local communities, and also you will learn how to organize the data for analysis. Most of you are probably trying to create services of some sort for youth and young adults. And when we talk about our youth and young adults, we need to think from a community perspective. Not only are we talking about the individual, we're also talking about the communities that they live in. So family, friends and peers, their neighborhoods, schools or campuses, housing options, and the professionals that are working with them as well. So as you are continuing to work on your community asset map, just kind of keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you are getting a nice cross-section of participants in your analysis when you are trying to map who is helping youth and young adults today. Some of the categories you may encounter would include these various definitions. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what they were. So a peer is a person with a history of substance use and or related mental health issues. When we're talking about adolescents and young adults, of course, you're going to be dealing with young people. So it is a very strong suggestion of mine that you engage young people from the get-go when you're doing your community mapping and you're beginning to network within your local area. If you have some young people that are in recovery, either from substance use disorder or mental health, go ahead and invite them to help you contact organizations, individuals, schools, campuses, get them involved right from the get-go. Having peers involved in the process right from the beginning is going to speak volumes to what you're able to accomplish later on. Family members, just as important. If you have parents, siblings, children that have experience with substance use disorder or mental health recovery, please get them involved immediately as well. If you are a professional trying to do this, I will tell you it will be very difficult to create peer recovery support services without the engagement of peers right from the get-go. Also, allies. If you are an ally, thank you so much. We love our allies. They're individuals who may not have been directly impacted, but are staunch supporters of substance use and related mental health recovery policy and programming. So as you are mapping the resources that are in your community, it is equally as important to understand that even though you may not have been directly affected, you can play a big part in creating programs for our youth. Young or young adult professional, if you have identified like a clubhouse director or maybe an after-school program director or somebody like that, campus a wellness director on a college campus, also want to get their contact information and try to communicate with them to find out what services they are offering. They can be incredibly important as well. So we're looking at a couple of different types of data collection, just Don't really worry about the definitions here. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that there are primary data collection methods and then also secondary data collection. Just to keep it simple, basically, if you're speaking directly to a person, a source, an organization through an interview or what's called a focus group, which is usually a small group of about 6 to 10 participants, and you're just asking them questions and they're giving you their input and experience, that is a direct contact or primary data collection. If you are doing research on the internet, or if you have come across some journals or articles in the newspaper or online blogs in your community, that would be considered secondary data collection. And so both are very important, and you probably have already started to do a lot of the online research already. You just want to make sure that you are tracking what you're finding and that you're recording it so that you can use it in your proposals and in your strategic plans. Remember, to sum it up, you want to answer the questions who, what, when, where, and how. And that whenever I'm doing research for a community, I always want to find out, who is my population, who is supporting my population, what are they doing, when are they doing it, where are they doing it, and how. And those 5 areas are often key in any kind of data collection. So again, who is doing the data collection? If you're trying to do it all by yourself, if you're one person leading this effort, that is amazing. I will tell you, it could get a little overwhelming. And you, as having been that one person trying to do it all, I'll tell you that getting some volunteers will be very helpful. So if you have not put together either an advisory committee or some kind of just volunteer board or maybe a project team, I highly, highly, highly suggest that you do that. And they can participate in these trainings as well. You may want to try to hit those areas we talked about earlier with peers in recovery, family members, allies, maybe a professional or two, to help you kind of broaden your network of who you're going to be mapping. And just to record the data, you want to potentially, if you're good at Excel, then go for it. I prefer a spreadsheet when I'm doing this type of data collection. You can the categories can vary, name, contact information, mission, and how they could be helpful to your effort. You can also, if you're old school and you want to take notes by hand, that works too. Just make sure that somebody is collecting all of that and you don't lose any of it. And then, of course, if you are going to record anything, you want to ask people's permission before you do that. And then when you're doing community asset mapping, if you can get a map of a neighborhood or of your city or of your campus to log the communities, that would be great. Some of the previous resources we mentioned in Unit 3 that have done the national mapping, they've really done a good job of making sure that addresses, contact information, everything is included on their map. And so kind of model that at the local level. You could actually use, I know for sure, the Facing Addiction map. You can log in any information you want to for free there and go back and use it. You can create a member ID and just use their system for tracking the geographical locations and contact information. So that way you don't have to worry about Google Maps or any of that kind of stuff. They've already built a tool for you, which is great. You also want to do just kind of a larger general policy scan of your state. So looking up, have there been any specific recovery votes or action items, any kind of laws or legislation that has been passed, just sort of a general overview. You don't have to dive too deep into it, but you do want to know, what coalitions exist in your area, and are there any collaborations with policymakers? For example, does the governor have a task force? Does the mayor have a task force around the opioid epidemic or around youth recovery, or maybe there's a homelessness task force that is currently working in your area? So knowing about those resources can also be very helpful, and while you're making your contacts and building your network for your program. So once you have a pretty good list of contact information, kind of the missions of these organizations and how you can support each other, you want to make sure that the log is categorized and you understand the information that you've collected. So just here's some suggestion of what you need to include on that spreadsheet or the Word document. And then also, once you're done with mapping the assets and you just feel like you've exhausted all your contacts and you've done your Google searches, and if you use the online map assets that I listed earlier, then you can go back and you say, you know what, we really need a recovery cafe in our area. We don't have anywhere for young people to congregate. And so that would go underneath the gaps in services. So I would categorize that as, social or space or, a location. That there's definitely some need there that while you're developing your services for your vision and your organization, you can kind of keep that in mind. Also, there are other people that are doing these things that you may not have in your community. And so knowing what the national resources are, and we'll go over those in some of the future units here, will be very helpful as well. And then just put follow up here, because as you are getting out into your communities and meeting people, it's going to be very important for you to maintain those relationships. So send them the report if you want to. Send them follow up. This is what we found, or if you're having an event, make sure that you always invite those people so that you can build your network and really start to get traction within your community, which of course will support your efforts. So that concludes our Unit 4 today on what to do with the data that you're collecting with community asset mapping. And I know it can seem quite overwhelming. It will take a little bit of time. Don't get frustrated with it. It's some of my favorite work that I get to do because I get to meet people and see what's happening in my community, and it really gets me excited. But I do offer a cautionary tale. Sometimes I go out into the community and get so excited I just want to do everything. And so that's why having the mission and the vision of the services that you're trying to create, make sure that you stay focused on those and use the asset mapping as an opportunity to be more strategic with where you will find funding, where you're going to build your network, and how you're going to execute your plan for your recovery high school, collegiate recovery community, or the alternative peer group. So thank you so much. And again, if you have any questions, then please feel free to email Jason and he can get in contact with me. But we will see you for Unit 5, which will kick off our recovery high school section. Developing a really quality proposal is incredibly important to starting a really strong foundation for getting a school open. So we will go over that on the next section. Thank you so much. Have a great day.